Everyone, this is a special meeting of the Board of Trustees of Harlandale Independent School District, which will be held today, Wednesday, July 6th, 2016, beginning at 6:15. The time now is 6:16 p.m. in the Central Office Building, PDC 102 Genevieve, San Antonio, Texas 78214. The board may go into closed session on any agenda item if permitted under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. In such event, the board president will announce the applicable government code section prior to the board going into closed session. To my right, I have Mr. Tomas Uresti.
Here.
Ms. Christine Carrillo.
Here.
To my left, I have Mr. Carlos Quesada.
Present.
And myself, and I do declare a quorum. And Mr. Mancha just walked in. Hi, Mr. Mancha. Okay.
That's you.
So I do declare a quorum. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Mancha. So he just made it in. Thank you, sir, for coming. Mr. Madrigal, did you want to go ahead and introduce your staff, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Here with us this evening, we have again our Executive Director for Operations, Mr. Jerry Soto.
Here.
We have our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, Mr. Ricardo Hernandez.
Here.
We have our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Carol Harrell. And we have our Executive Position or Officer for Human Resources, Ms. Diane Tudyk.
Here.
And then we have our Public Information Officer, Mr. again, Andrew Fernandez.
Here.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. It is a 30-minute limit, 5-minute maximum per speaker. Citizens are offered an opportunity to address the board without prior approval. The board, however, will not comment or engage in discussion. Presentations shall be informative only. No board action will be taken. The topics addressed shall be limited to those specifically included on the board's agenda and/or school district related. Presentations shall not include statements which may be considered defamatory, inflammatory, and/or threatening against a person or the district. And speakers shall not mention student names unless naming your own child, nor address a complaint against a district employee or officer. Such complaints will be handled through the guidelines set out in district policy. At all other times, members of the public shall not enter into any discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board. And I'd like to call roll for Mr. Abundis, who just entered the room. Mr.
Here.
Abundis? Thank you, sir. So the first person is Ms. Josie Scales. Ms. Scales?
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board, Mr. Madrigal and members of cabinet. There are three things I wanted to address tonight. The first is the great success of the STREAM summer program. I know Mr. Abundis complimented this program at the last board meeting, but I also wanted to say a few things about the program. I had 3 grandsons that attended the June session. All 3 were so excited when I picked them up each day about things they learned and experienced that day. Also, there was an open house which I was able to attend, and I was absolutely blown away by the number of classes they were able to attend and the curriculum in each subject matter. As an example, they had a music class that had the kids playing music on bananas. That's just one example. What a great summer program for our kids. I want to compliment HISD staff on a job much more than well done. I hope these types of programs will continue in Harlandale ISD. Secondly, to this board, I would once again like to thank you for the unity with which the budget was approved at the June 20th board meeting. The respect you showed to the TASB representatives, HISD staff, and to each other was the way a school board is expected to represent itself. I want to thank Mr. Hernandez and his staff for their excellent work, as usual, putting together this budget. I know some of you were not around at a board or district level when we had to close Shea Elementary, but it was so hard to watch parent after parent, student after student, teacher after teacher speak through tears, begging to keep the school open when we had no choice but to close it. I know none of us want to experience that again. It appears at the moment that next year's legislative session may not be doing anything to help us with our funding. I'm speaking on behalf of Harlandale Council of PTAs and Texas PTA. We have received the following news from our state PTA lobbyist, Ellen Arnold. Texas PTA has been told that we will have to be a lot louder next session if we are going to be successful in all our efforts. With oil prices down, revenue will be reduced, and funding for public education not only is not likely to see increases in funding, but we may see cuts to funding for public schools. The 21 local PTAs here in the Harlandale ISD and Harlandale Council of PTAs are going to be a lot louder in Austin. We're going to make a big push to attend Rally Day at the Capitol, which is held close to the beginning of the legislative session held every other year. We want to make sure the state legislature hears us loud and clear. We will also be emailing and calling our Texas state senators and representatives to let them know we are watching and expect them to come through for our children and our public schools. Finally, I want to express my sadness and worry that two of our best and most essential HISD staff members will not be with us next year. Dr. Carol Harrell and Monica Ruiz Mills. Our students here in Harlandale have been fortunate to have had the knowledge and professional experience of both of these ladies, and I have no doubt they are both going to be hard to replace. But I have no doubt staff and this board will do all they can, their very best, to replace them with professionals of the same caliber. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gills.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Udesi?
I just want to take a moment real quick. Our former Harlandale trustee and our former state representative, Joe Farias, underwent a kidney transplant today. Luckily, his son was able to be a donor, and his son was already in recovery a couple hours back. I spoke to his son, Gabe, a couple hours back also, and Joe Farias was in recovery also. So both are looking very well. So if we could just keep Joe, of course, and his son in our prayers, and the rest of the family also. Again, he was a former colleague of this board, and again, our former state representative. So hopefully he'll recover quickly. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Udesi. The next person up to speak is Mrs. Gina Castañeda.
Good evening, board members, staff, and community. I have 3 brief comments that I'd like to make. The first one, I want to address the item of the agenda that to consider and take appropriate action regarding a third-party audit. I am glad that y'all were going to consider this, or y'all are considering this. I think it is much needed. I don't think we've had a third-party audit in many, many years. I do know that there is a difference between having an audit with the regular auditor that is here, and I believe that a third-party audit should be done by someone not totally associated with the district. So I do appreciate that and do encourage every one of you to approve this. My second item on the agenda, my comments are going to be, I have to say, I'm very dismayed. At the last board meeting, when each one of you sit on the dais, y'all are expected to be very professional. And I saw that that was being done, and I applaud you for your work in getting together and finally deciding on the budget and the pay increases for the staff. But there was one thing that really bothered me, and that was seeing during your conversation our attorney got up and sat in the audience where he should be at the dais listening to what y'all are saying and directing you as to what not to say. So I don't think he could have been able to do that while he was in the audience, unless he raised his hand or ran up to the table and said, you can't be doing that. So I believe that that needs to be addressed. There's got to be some decorum. The next thing that I would like to address is, if you're looking at possibly doing some changes in the program, and I am saddened to see Dr. Harrell leave, I do believe that the opportunity, and y'all are going to be hiring someone to replace her, that the programs that this person is the replacement person should be aware of what is actually going on, and maybe she might bring something or he might bring something to the table that should be more acquainted or has had better success. So those are my three things, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castañeda. The next item on the agenda is individual items. Letter A, the board will discuss and possibly approve the purchase of Do the Math instructional materials and professional development with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. And I believe Dr. Harrell.
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Mr. Vandergaal, and Cabinet, Harlandale family and friends. We had shared a few months ago in Curriculum Committee that we would like to bring a product and professional development, more of a program, an overall program to the table for you to consider in the form of Do the Math, instructional materials and professional development by Mifflin, and also Math Solutions. They're both founded by Marilyn Burns, probably one of the foremost math educators internationally as well as nationally. We also have representatives from Do the Math. Jack Darden and Nikki Rizzo from Math Solutions are here to answer any questions. We had submitted in the HH and also in your packet where Do the Math fits. We also have teachers this month and next month attending the state mandated math academies. However, those math academies are only for 2nd and 3rd grade. So we really, really want to have an additional professional development program ready for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, in addition to our K-1 and truly Math Solutions. Marilyn Burns Math Solutions fits that bill. So one of the things that we had provided was the math, we called it the Math Curriculum Cake, which showed all the materials for our teachers for Tier 1 instruction. And then Do the Math, of course, is in Tier 2, which is primarily a very well detailed prepared math curriculum to help our teachers plan and meet the needs of our students who struggle the most in math. So that's where we are today. I do have the representatives from both companies, although they are sister companies, and then also Nora Lugo from our math department, who is fresh off doing the Math Academies training today. So Are there any questions, or would you like to hear more about either one of the programs?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Abundis.
I just have two questions. This was my only week off, so I didn't get really to research as much as possible. But I did research blended learning, continue to further get my understanding, and I know there's a technology component to that. So I just have two quick questions, and they're easy answers. So and I think I read it somewhere, or you mentioned it last time. The bilingual component there's a bilingual component to both programs. Right?
The math vocabulary is in English and Spanish and built into the lessons that the teachers prepare for yellow.
So let me ask you, and then the other question is, like, you know how like the STAR reading for AR, you can test like weekly to progress monitor the students. So is this program the same way, or is it every so often? Can you progress monitor every week with the program?
Sir, the answer to that is each one of these Do the Math modules comes with 30-minute lessons. Every fifth lesson, so it could be if you taught a lesson every day and a pull-out intervention, for example, there would be an assessment every fifth lesson. So there's also an assessment at the beginning of each module. So if a student is assessed at the beginning of a 30-lesson module and succeeds on that assessment, they wouldn't need to be in that module anyway. But if they're placed in the module appropriately, the next assessment they would have is at the fifth lesson. So after 4 lessons, 1 through 4, possibly if you did that Monday through Thursday, they'd have a short assessment on Friday. So it's ongoing progress monitoring every fifth lesson. And of course, there's an end of module assessment at the end of the 30th lesson as well.
And I just want to add that we're also going to be using Think Through Math as our universal screener for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And that has the beginning, middle, and end. So that's also going to be our progress monitoring.
The only reason I ask is when I was doing the research for blended learning, I know the assessment component is important because you have to make the adjustments and regroup if you have to. Yeah. So I wasn't sure from what I just read briefly if this program can do that.
Certainly can do that very easily. And of course, when students are being taught in these small groups, teachers can make adjustments within one 30-minute lesson. If a student's not grasping that, it should be easy to be seen by a teacher because these are designed, again, to be pull-out interventions in groups of, 5, maybe 3 to 5 to 7 students.
Okay, that was pretty much what I wanted to ask. Thank you, Ms. Cáceres.
Thank you, Mr. Abundis.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Martinez.
I just want to thank Dr. Harrell and her staff. I did do a little bit of research on it, and it is pretty well known, and the best part about it is I was able to call the districts and talk to some of their teachers, and some of them knew what the program was. Where before it was kind of hard to find anybody that was doing the program here in San Antonio besides us. But with this program, it was a lot easier to find people that actually did the program and enjoyed it, and it was a lot easier for them to understand from the feedback that I got. So I thank you and your staff, ma'am.
Thank you, Nora, and your staff.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Abundis.
before any further discussion, can I make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Abundis.
I move to approve the purchase of Do the Math instructional materials and professional development by Huffman Mifflin Harcourt.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Yes, Mr. Udesi.
I had a question for Mr. Wilson. On the contract number 5.02 and 5.03. 5.03, the response to 5.02, or is that yet to be filled out?
On page 12, yeah, page 12.
Mr. Rusty, what is the request regarding the contract?
Yes, sir. On Article 5, 5.02. If 5.03 is the response to that, or is there, that still needs to be filled out on 5.02?
Would you read, what page are you on, Mr. Odesta? Just for clarification.
Page 12, contract.
I just wanted to add, our understanding is we have the money right now that we would make the payment immediately so the teachers could have their professional development and their materials as soon as possible. So the 15 days would be immediate. But if you need us to put a specific date, we certainly can, but we do have the money and title funds to cover this.
Oh, what I was wondering was it said as follows,
Right.
we paid as follows, but it had 15 days on top.
And it's blank.
And it 5.03 is the answer to the previous question, or is it just automatically 15 days? I know the way I see it, it's just it's as long as we do it within 15 days, we're okay. Just because we had the blank spaces there, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, there is a blank space there under 5.02, regards to services that will be covered and it's to be paid as follows, and it just is a 15-day period, and there's no time period for it to be paid other than the 15 days.
All right, I just want to make sure we're right on that. Okay, so thank you, sir.
And was that the answer to your question? Okay, thank you, Mr. Uresti. And I just want to say thank you, Dr. Hall, to you and your staff. And I'm glad that we're bringing on a program that's going to definitely target those students who are struggling. And hopefully this will be a much better solution for them. So I'm definitely excited to see what that's going to, do for our students. And the question that I have too is that this is going to be paid through Title I funds, correct?
Right.
And Title I funds is only for those students who are struggling.
No, it actually can be used for programs and products that typically are in math and reading
Okay.
that are supplemental. So this being tier 2.
It's considered supplemental?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm glad that we have it in that it's bilingual, of course, too, because that was definitely a big one
Yes.
for, I think, all of us on the curriculum committee, myself, Mr. Abundis, and Mr. Moreno.
And of course, the professional development will also include how to meet the needs of our ELL students. That's one important component as well. So how to teach and reach. So
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any other questions or discussion? Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Abundis to approve,
it's two things.
to approve item 1, do the math, materials, and professional development, and a second from Mr. Mancha. All those in favor? All those against? Motion passes. And item 2, the board will discuss and possibly approve the proposal for a partnership with Math Solutions, which was,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I move to approve the partnership with Math Solutions. A proposal for a partnership with Math Solutions. HMH.
Thank you, Mr. Abundis.
Look at that.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Dr. Hall, were you going to present anything on this as well? Just pretty much what was in the package?
Exactly. Yeah, we do have a representative here, Nikki Rizzo, who can address any professional development, Marilyn Burns Math Solution questions.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Okay. So, okay. Yes, we have a motion by Mr. Abundis to approve item B, item B, and a second from Mr. Mancha. All those in favor? All those against? Motion passes. Item C, the board will consider and take appropriate action regarding a third-party audit and request staff to go out for a possible RFQ. So this item is an item that I requested be placed on the agenda. The reason that I requested this item is that throughout the 3-year term that I've been on the board, there's been several conferences that I've attended as a board member, and I know my fellow board members have attended the same type of conferences through TASB as well. And in order to keep the district healthy and keep everything in line through departments, through vendors and everything else, one of the recommendations that they make is that a district have a third-party financial or full forensic audit of the district, just to make sure that everything's being transparent and everything's basically functioning the way it should through each department, through vendors, and that everybody's being compliant with everything. So this is the reason that I brought this item on the agenda, and at this moment I'd like to request that we go out for an RFQ, or make a motion that we go out for an RFQ for a full forensic audit of the district. Of course, we'd like to get an idea of how much it's going to cost, and that's what that RFQ, or after the RFQ, will do for us, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, also you have to determine the scope of the audit as well. You said forensic audit. There's so many different departments and programs within the district itself. I guess the board's going to have to determine what type of audit you're going to have, because you have your own independent auditor that you retain to do certain functions and perform certain audit functions in the district already. And I guess there's going to have to be a determination tonight what it's going to consist of in regards to what type of audit you're going to want.
Well, the request that I put in was for a full forensic audit of everything across the board for the whole district. So it would include all the departments, it would include all vendors, everything
Madam
across
Chair.
the board. Yes, Mr. Udez.
You're talking, I believe, well over $100,000, I think, not $200,000, if I'm not correct, Mr. Hernandez, for a complete forensic audit of all departments and all vendors.
I can't give you an estimated amount because we didn't research that, because we needed the scope, as Mr. Wilson had alluded to, as to what this audit would entail. What I can tell you is that last year's financial audit that we have to have every year required by TEA, the cost of that was $89,000. Prior to that, it was $80,000.
Okay,
So
and that was
you could
the
use-
financial audit
That was just
done?
the financial audit, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was the one that we do through Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's the one we have to do for first, what's it called, that program, first?
It's the annual financial compliance audit.
Isn't there an acronym for that, with first or something?
CAF, for Comprehensive Annual Financial Audit, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we were to go out for an RFQ, after that we would have to get the pricing on it, correct?
Yes, ma'am. What we do is the RFQ, which is requesting for professional services, and then after firm is selected, then we would negotiate a cost for the type of audit.
Yeah, he's correct. It's really kind of a two-step type of process where you do qualifications, and then you try to negotiate a price or cost in regards to the services they're going to be provided, as long as they're qualified to do it.
So, Madam Chair, so we would
Yes,
rank
Mr. Williams.
pretty much the qualification is just to rank them, and then we start negotiating with one, and if we don't like that, you go down to second until you finally negotiate with somebody, right? Or how does that work?
Correct, yes. Based on professional services, yes.
Yeah, the only thing is, Ms. Gaston, is can we get a second before we just continue any discussion?
Yes. So the motion was for us to consider taking action regarding a third-party audit and request staff to go out for a possible RFQ. So that's my motion. Do I have a second? No? Okay. So I know we don't know what the cost is. I just want to state that I'm not aware of what the full cost is going to be as well. But through all these different conventions that I've been through, that in order to keep a district healthy, and I know that there's a lot of districts out there who had some pretty bad turmoil because of financial things that have come up in the past, or that have actually come up, undiscovered. I'm not, of course, saying that we have that problem, but I just want to make sure that We are being transparent to our community members and of course to all our stakeholders. And in order to be able to do that, I would think that a full forensic audit of the entire district would definitely be something that would be healthy for our district. Like I said, we're going on, I don't know when the last audit was for the entire district. Can you give me an answer on that?
We need a
Mr. Chair?
second before we can continue anymore, ma'am. I don't know if I'm correct, but we need a second before we move further.
For discussion purposes, you need a second. But so I may have another motion item, in regards to this item.
Okay. I did want an answer on that though, Mr. Madrigal, because I did ask for an answer on when was the last time that we had a full forensic audit of the entire district.
What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna refer to Mr. Hernandez. I know that every year again, Mr. Hernandez, when was the last time we had a third-party audit? Do you recall? I know during my tenure, I don't recall us having one, but I know you've been in your position a lot longer.
Yes, sir. And no, I don't believe we've ever had a full district-wide department audit, as you're referring to. The only one we've had is our annual financial audit.
Thank you. And Mr. Moreno is now present. I'd like to just introduce you, sir. Thank you for making it. Okay, so the motion fails. Item 4, convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 through 551.084. Item A, the board will discuss the recommended regular personnel report, TGC 551.074.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Abundis?
move to convene in closed session.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor? We'll convene in closed session.
What time?
The time now is 6:48.